Hello, fellow villains. Andy here. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this week's bonus content. All four of us at the Rules of Villainy podcast here were able to make it to DLC Milwaukee, and we wanted to give you guys our opinions and our thoughts on the whole experience as it was. So I'm going to jump right in and give you some of my thoughts on this. We'll be followed by everyone else in the crew giving their opinions. So stick around. I hope everyone enjoys this. All right, so I'll jump right into it. My performance on the weekend was pretty decent. I'm not too happy. I'm not too unhappy with it, but obviously not the greatest. I did not make day 2. I finished 5-3. Played Amethyst Steel on the day. Had quite a bit of variance in my matchups. 3 Blurple, 3 Mirrors, and 2 Baja. Not a single Amber Steel. Not a single Dogs deck. Not a single, more off-meta deck that I thought I could beat with just these sort of fair cards in this mid-range battle of Amethyst Steel. I was 5-2 going into the last round. I had a win in. It was a mirror. I went all the way to game 3, and unfortunately, my opponent chained 3 docks in a row, 3 turns in a row, and I just could not deal with the size of a board that they built up. But hey, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the format. I got to cheer on a bunch of my teammates who made it to day 2. A little more on that later. But that was overall my performance. I also played in an Infinity side event the next day, not the big one, just a smaller one. I went 2-1 on Sapphire Steel items. That was kind of fun, but ultimately just a small little dip of the toe in the Infinity pool, if you will. More on the format, I really liked it. I felt that more rounds was better. Even though I didn't make day 2, the idea of 12 rounds of Swiss deciding who makes a top 32 cut instead of top 64, I felt like really narrowed down the field to the best players in the room. It is a little rough, only being able to lose 2 games out of 12 rounds in order to make that top 32. But again, I really feel like we need to narrow it down to the best players in the room. So best of 3, big fan of that. The 6 or 8 rounds on the first day, 6 wins to move on was not unattainable. I felt very much in it. That felt great. So I think there's not too much to change there, but I would welcome a few tweaks, or some ideas if people had them. I think we might need a little better prizing. I'll probably touch on this some more, and I'm sure my co-hosts will also touch on it. But maybe a little more tickets, depending on how you do. You get that big bonus when you made day 2, but then there wasn't really much to stay in day 2 for if you lost that first round. So definitely could be worked on, that ticket economy, if you will. I know a lot of people were talking about the take-back rule. I had 2 experiences with that. One, my opponent accidentally played the wrong Clarabelle into the Inkwell when they said inking Clarabelle, and immediately asked to take it back, and I said, yes, no problem. Another one, my opponent wanted to take back like a Genie Fire the Cannons interaction. I was a little unclear as to what they wanted to take back, so we simply called a judge. They clarified it. The judge walked us through. It really had not much effect, if any, on the game, and so it didn't affect me. I know other people. I heard stories of other people at the event where this rule was not so great. It had some not so great effects on their outcome of their matches, but I can't speak for that firsthand. So far so good with the whole take back rule. Another thing I want to talk about is the venue. I think I would best describe it as fine. There's some pros and some cons. Obviously, it was a really great venue. We were up on the 3rd floor of this venue. The staff there was excellent. Plenty of space, decent parking, decent amenities, little water bottle fillers, nice amount of bathrooms. They had decent food options. They even brought in a couple little maybe outside vendors for food that popped up these little food tents, which was not too bad. Some of the cons was the no outside food or drink. Kirsten and I had brought some bagels to snack on throughout the day that we got. and they let me in with mine, but made her throw hers away. It's a little odd. I saw them make Liam from Lumiteers throw away donuts that it looks like he had brought for the casting crew and some of the players, which is really, really sad. So I think maybe that could have been, changed around for us. The vending machines were a little expensive. We're kind of nitpicking here, but overall, pretty decent venue. On that note, I guess Milwaukee, the city, was great. I didn't expect too much from the city. Never been there, never heard of it. Really, I mean, I've obviously heard of it, but never really heard of anything special from there. But the places we ended up going were pretty great. We stayed in an Airbnb on like 2 blocks or so from a nice little downtown or a little neighborhood area, I guess, that had bars and grills and food and all kinds of things. Big shout out to Don's TV Repair, the speakeasy that we went to with the crew on Friday night, as well as some other places like the Odd Duck, where we also grabbed some drinks. We went out to, I don't remember the name, Stenny's, actually, was the bar and grill we went out to with the team after on Saturday night. And then Kirsten and I found a really great place, Alley Boys Bagelry in Milwaukee, that had amazing sandwiches. Those were the ones that unfortunately got confiscated, but we did still get to eat a lot of them. It was delicious. Worth going there every morning. Moving right along, logistics. I think that's something we're all probably going to end up touching on. So I won't expand too much on it, but the lines were insane. This is my 4th DLC. I've been to Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, and now Milwaukee. Never had this issue with any line for anything to see anyone. Artist, vendor, getting in, waiting for prizing. The line, pretty crazy. So I feel like we definitely could have, allocated a few more staff to some of these lines to make things go a little smoother. Seems like a relatively easy fix. Play hub wise, very, very surprised. Thought it would not make it as far as it did, but it actually did fairly well, very on par with Melee was in Atlanta. Granted, I know that is a step back from where we were in Seattle and some of the other DLCs, but crashed a few times, a little slow. I'd use some paper pairings, but ultimately not too shabby. Hopefully it only gets better from here. And then, prizing, probably one of the biggest topics to go into. We've been discussing this in our Discord a ton. This has been being discussed on social media all over the place. I don't really have the answers to it, but ultimately the prize wall economy, the ticket economy, if you will, was not great. You didn't earn enough tickets doing the main event. It was too hard to do side events. The prizes were too expensive ticket-wise. All of this kind of combined for a relatively lackluster prize wall experience. Personally, in Chicago, I remember being able to get tickets for main event, and my wife and I, Kirsten, we combined our tickets and we played a couple side events of things we wanted, sealed drafts, pack rushes, whatever, and we got tickets, and we got a hat, we got a shirt, not this hat, but we got a hat and a shirt, and one of each of the Rapunzel and the Cinderella card for our collection, which was great. We were so happy. And then Seattle, it was even better because we did the same thing. We played in the competition. We played in a couple side events that we wanted, constructed event, constructed event, sealed draft, a couple pack rushes. It was great. And then in the end, we had enough tickets to get the big prize, the Cindy playmat. So those accomplishments and being able to do that was a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun. I didn't have to grind anything. I didn't felt forced into spending money on events that I didn't need to or want to play. I straight up just had a fun time at the event, and I earned the tickets and got that prize. I loved that there were more prizes with this prize wall, but it really felt hard to be able to even get what we wanted. Kirsten and I didn't get to play in a lot of side events. The on-demand events were way too long. The line for that was way too long. Kirsten did one pack rush. We did our side event Infinity that we signed up for. And we had our entry tickets. Neither of us made day 2. So ultimately we ended up with like a pin and one card. Not great. We could have tried harder, obviously, but there was a lot of things in our way. So just overall, they need to change one or a few of these things to make everything sort of fit together a little bit better, so that we can get a little more tickets, get a little more prizes, have a little more fun, play a little more Lorcana, and hopefully have a better overall experience at the DLC. And then I saved the best for last year's the people at DLC Milwaukee, and I think this will probably be the case going forward with most DLCs. Every DLC has just gotten more and more and more amazing. We've seen more and more folks who have come up to us and said hi. I've met so many people. I'm so sorry for how awkward I probably was when meeting a lot of you, but I had a ton of fun. We appreciate every single one of you guys who listen and came up and said hi, and we hope you had an amazing DLC experience. The amount of St. Louis folks who were there was unbelievable. So much fun. We got a huge picture with all of them except Vince, who didn't make it in time because he overslept. I'm joking. We'll Photoshop you in, Vince. But it was great being able to go back to a table that was just full of St. Louis folks and chit chat with them in between rounds, see how everyone was doing. Huge congratulations to my good friend Ron, aka Reckless, Captain Jimmy. Both of them made day 2. Also, St. Louis natives Justin and Buff also made day 2. Congratulations. And then, of course, the highlight of the weekend for, I think, not just us from the St. Louis area, not just us from Rules of Villainy, but probably everyone in the Lorcana community across the world. Huge shout out to Aiden, the youngest Golden Mickey winner in Lorcana history, a St. Louis local attendee. We see him at a lot of the set champs and things in St. Louis. I've played against him a number of times. He's a great kid, an amazing Lorcana player. He got the first Golden Mickey for the St. Louis area. I really just can't say enough how much fun it was watching him go on his run in day 2 and into the top 32 and all the way to the top 8, and getting to hang out with him and his family as we waited for him to get the Golden Mickey Award, and watching him get that award. It was so much fun. I don't think it could have happened to anyone else. It was truly amazing. Very happy to have been able to stick around and witness that. Such an awesome moment for our community as well as the Lorcana world at large. So yeah, there are definitely things we can fix about this DLC. Some pricing tweaks here and there, some a couple more staff to reduce some of those lines. But all in all, the people make these DLCs amazing. And I think if Ravensburger and Disney Lorcana show up, that the community is going to show up and we're going to have a good time no matter what. So please make it better, but know that we'll be there to support it as long as you guys keep trying. We appreciate it. So yeah, that's all I have. Those are my thoughts on DLC Milwaukee. I'm going to throw it over to one of my other co-hosts and let them share their experience as well.
What's up, everybody? This is Brad, a.k.a. the Mayor of Lorcana, bringing you to my DLC Milwaukee Recap. That's right, this past weekend was DLC Milwaukee, and by and large, it was okay. I didn't do okay. I did terribly, but the experiences that I had there made up for it. I was happy to be back. I felt like I was at home. It felt like being there with all the other Lumineers and creators and friends and listeners. Just it was such a great feeling to be back there in a North American DLC. Last one I went to was Seattle, which was like a culmination of all of the improvements that they made from Atlanta on. And this one felt like a little bit of a step back in regards to the tournament as a whole. I think that there is a lot of room for improvement that we will get into after I break down my matches here shortly. Before we get into that, I do want to say that Saturday was probably one of my favorite moments of all time, because I bought this ridiculous scar mask that you can see behind me a week before the the DLC. It came the day before we traveled up there, and it was worth it immediately because I got to experience I got to meet Baker. I got to meet Baker, which I ended up doing anyway, but I got to meet him in that mask. I got to sing Be Prepared with him, and it was so much fun and such a cool memory that I'm going to cherish forever. So shout out to Lorcana Villain. Thank you for being as fun as you are, and such a great member of this community. As far as the tournament itself, did not go well, as I alluded to just a little bit ago. I decided on Blurple out of the 2 decks that I brought. My other was Sapphire Steel. I was not brave enough to play, though I was having a lot of success with it the past couple of weeks here. And we did see it be moderately successful throughout the tournament. I think halfway through the tournament itself, I was over chatting with one of the judges, my friend Elaine, who I met at the Glass City Showdown. And she's like, can you believe there's a Sapphire Steel at table 3? And I stood there watching it and was like, man, I think I made the wrong choice today, because at this point I had only won 1 game, and that was the only game that I won on the day. That's right, I brought Blurple, and I got exactly what I told everybody I was going to get. It was going to be Blurple mirror matches, and it was going to be Amethyst Steel all day. I had a 3-3 split of both of those before I finally played an Amber Steel in round 7, and none of them went my way, with the exception of the second round game against a guy named Eddie, who arguably I shouldn't have been playing, because my first round got reported incorrectly, and despite all of mine and my opponent's efforts to get it corrected, they never did. So that was kind of a bummer. One of my gripes about the weekend. I let Eddie know ahead of time, like, hey, I don't think I'm supposed to be playing you, but they're not going to repair 2,000 people because of this mistake. So I want you to be aware of it. But yeah, it was unfortunate. It was my only win of the day, was round 2. I shouldn't pass over round 1. Christian from Team Arcana was a great, pleasant opponent, as was all of my opponents throughout the entirety of the weekend. I want to give them all a shout out. But yeah, he was on Amethyst Steel. I think he won the die roll and took it 2-0. Round 2, I was again the Blurple mirror match against Eddie. I got that one in 3. I got to do all of the spicy things my deck was supposed to do between Radigan and Camillo and Monstro. I think my final 2 lore of the game was bouncing Monstro with Camillo. And then round 3 was a fun one. I sat down 2 seats away from Dakota, my buddy from the Legends of the Inkwell podcast, and I got smoked. I got smoked by Ryan on Amethyst Steel before realizing after the game that it was Ryan from Club Lorcana, which made me feel really silly because I watched that podcast off and on. And I'm actually kind of happy I didn't know ahead of time, because I would have just known I was about to get cooked instead of just getting cooked as I did already. So kind of had a little laugh about that at the end of the game, gave him a card, and I asked him if he watches any kind of content. He says, I make content. And then it clicked. Light bulb. I know who you are. I can't believe I didn't realize it quicker. But that's kind of a testament to how I felt over the course of the entire weekend, just overwhelmed and anxious, and but so happy to be there, because there's so many people I wanted to talk to and see, and some regretfully I didn't get to talk to, that hopefully I'll get that chance in Richmond. So if I get a ticket, that is. But moving on from round 3, I had another, the next 2 rounds, round 4 and 5 were both Blurple mirrors. Chris from Lorcana Goons, he had a spicy Blurple deck with Louie from the Huey, Dewey, and Louie gang from DuckTales. It was the 3-4 support quest for 2. He did some work with that. He got me, I think, 2-1. It might have been 2-0. Who knows? But he got the win there. And round 5 was a guy named Jerry, who was really, really cool and really pleasant to play against. I got him round 1 pretty decisively. My deck did everything it was supposed to do. And then round 2 and 3, he just he shut me down. I only run 1 of the Spirit of Winter Elsas, and he had at least 2 of them in there, because he was able to lock me down in both of those games and take those. I thought I had that game and was going to be back on the track to winning and possibly getting that Mulan. Spoiler alert, if you haven't put it together already, I didn't. But Jerry got that game around 5. Round 6 was Amethyst Steel against Brian from the Lords of Lore up north here in the area. Screw the rules here on YouTube. And was Amethyst Steel battle again. We took it all the way to 3. I was in full control of the game until I wasn't, and my deck failed me. There was, I think, the first time in the day that my deck failed me. I asked him if it was okay. Can I take a picture of the board state here? I think he had 4 or 5 things on board. I had Monstro on board with a little bit of damage on him. I quested a 17, and my top deck for that turn was I just needed a character to stick, and I think I would have felt okay. Hopefully like a Hades or something, or even dig a little deeper for Monstro to sing and let me get a few options for my play. No, I drew the absolute worst card in my deck that I could at that moment with 8 ink. I drew second star on the right with a monster on board who can't even sing it, and that was the game. Like, you're just going to take it away here. You'll take out my monster next turn or not even care about him because you're close to winning as well. So that was that. And then finally, round 7, I got what I wished for. I got something different. I got Amber Steel, the Amber Steel that we know, and depending on what side of the table you're sitting on, love or don't, because it is so cruel with the Tiana Pluto line that they have there. But it came at the hands of a sweetheart. It was her 13th birthday. She was sitting next to her dad at one of those stationary tables where they could sit together all day, and was just a pleasant reminder of what the game is all about: playing with your family, playing for fun. We were playing in round 7, trying to stay alive for the Mulan card that you get for getting 3 wins in the tournament. And I had already decided when I sat down and saw her and talked to her that I'm going to play this game out, but no matter what happens with it, I'm going to give her the win, because I want to see her get the Mulan and have that pleasant experience. You know, I think it was her first DLC. If you're watching this, Renee, you can correct me in the comments below. But regardless, I was wanting her to go on and get that Mulan more than me at that point. I'll have another shot, hopefully in Richmond or Indianapolis in June. But I didn't have to give it to her because she got it herself. She took it down. She won the die roll. She won the first game. I won the second. And then the third game, I think it was a little bit of back and forth, but I could not find the answers I needed to shut her down. And she took it away. So congratulations to her. That ended my competitive play for Saturday. And then moving on to Sunday, I did one constructed event. It was the 12 o'clock constructed. I moved on to my Sapphire Steel and then ran into 3 Amber Steel matchups back to back to back. And I only won one of them. It was round 2 against one of our listeners. I sat down across from him. He goes, "Hey, Brad." And I was like, "Have we met?" He goes, "No, but I listened to the podcast, and one of those pleasant experiences." He wasn't the first person I talked to today that just walked up, or that the weekend that walked up and said hello. And thank you to all of you who did do that and who do listen. We greatly appreciate that. It means the world. And that feeling that I got Friday night as soon as I walked into the doors, a listener walked up and said, "Hey, I listened to the show and just wanted to say hey." And I was like, man, that's cool. It's such a cool feeling that we have grown outside of our bubble here in St. Louis, and we appreciate all of you. So thank you for that. This was Rex in round 2 of the constructed that I played, and I happened to actually get the win against our listener, so apologies to Rex. It was a very, very tough match, but I found the answers that I needed to get that one win, marking my second win, and only 2 wins of the weekend was in that constructed. And then what happened was, my biggest gripes of the weekend was that my round 3, it was already 2:35, I think, and round 3 was about to fire, but it was going to bleed into the 3 o'clock constructed that I already had scheduled. So I wanted to go up to the desk and cancel it. And I know Pastime's already made it clear that we're not doing refunds unless you have a legitimate reason to do it. And I thought this qualified, and it did, ultimately, to their credit. But the process to get the refund was a little, gave me pause, where I was like, why are we doing it this way? I went up to the desk. I waited in line for like 10 minutes, hoping that I could get it taken care of before round 3 fired in my constructed tournament. And then the round 3 did fire. I sent my fiance over to my opponent. I was like, "Hey, go over to table 69 and let them know, hey, I'm in line to get something resolved here, but I will be there." And the guy at the desk told me, he's like, "Hey, I can drop you from the 3 o'clock, but you're going to have to email Pastimes for the refund. I can't process the refund." And I'm like, whatever, I got to get to my table. I got to go play my opponent. I'll deal with it after it's over. So with respect to my opponent, I ran over there. I played her. I let her know the situation. It's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I'm late." There was a judge waiting for me. They gave me a little bit of an extension because I was late. And I said, it is what it is. I'm trying to do this all the right way and be respectful about it or whatever. So I played my opponent. we get done. She beats me 2-0. I think I was just a step behind the entire time. When it was all over, it was after 3 o'clock. I sent the email to Pastimes and let them know, hey, I talked to the guy at the desk. He said I need to email you for this refund. Here's the reason why. I tried to be as courteous and explain everything as thoroughly as possible. And they said, to their credit, they said, okay, we'll give you the refund, but next time make sure you email us before the event starts. And I'm like, how the hell was I supposed to do that in this situation here? Especially like all the time that I put into trying to doing the right thing. Can you like? Why did I have to send this email to get that refund? Couldn't I have talked to somebody else at the desk to get it taken care of? There needs to be a better way to do that to avoid these kind of headaches in the future. And I know there were a lot more headaches that people had throughout the weekend that I can't personally speak to, but just little things like that I had to go through is something that I hopefully can see improved before the next one. Like why do I have to email you for this refund when you've already done half of the work here? And I'm trying to play in this tournament myself and be respectful to my opponent and you guys at the same time. So again, hopefully something like that changes, but that was my biggest gripe. But my opponent was understanding, and that was the end of my playing on the weekend. Some rooms for improvement, I think that can be made for the future events. Time, there needs to be more time clocks around. They need to be more visible. I think at all the other DLCs I went to, they were in every corner of the room. Everywhere you look, you could see a time clock. And in fact, I heard I wasn't really looking for them at the beginning, and I think that they might not have even been out there until other people complained. And then when they put them out, they were barely visible at all. So that's something there. The reporting, I think there needs to be a way for us as the users to fix our reporting after my fiasco with the desk after round 1, where it was reported incorrectly. I went up there 3 times and it never got changed. And I was like, if I could just do it myself, that'd be great. But it'll avoid the situation that I had between round 1 and 2, getting paired incorrectly, having 3 points that I shouldn't have. It's not good. It doesn't feel good to see these little things that could be fixed so quickly not be changed, right? And then ultimately the biggest thing, like as a whole, not just from me personally, but I think a lot of people will agree, is the prize wall. The prize wall didn't feel achievable at all. And I understand there needs to be a gap between just showing up and actually earning things, but if you don't perform in the main event to day 2 to get those 10,000 tickets, and if you don't do a bunch of side events or pair up with a buddy to get a bunch of tickets from side events, I don't know how you get some of these things. Like the Simba Playmat is 18,000 tickets, and don't even get me started on the thousands. Like, why are we in the thousands? Why can't it just be 18 tickets, right? Like I guess the zeros make it cool, but it's just so extra, but the playmat, I think, I don't know. Walking up to the prize wall, I know from my experience, I had 4,800 tickets at the end of the event, and I had a choice between a out-of-print card or 2 of the challenge pins that I'm just like, what do I do with these? Like the Let It Go's pretty. Of course, I'd rather have the shinier one from last year, but I understand like they're not going to put the shiny one on the prize wall. Those are things that people earned last set, but it's not even in rotation right now. So I'm just like, I end up getting the Let It Go, and I like it. It's pretty. I'm happy to have it, but it just seems, I don't know. It didn't feel good walking up to that prize wall, and I think there could be some adjustments made there. The biggest thing, though, is like what I don't understand is they finally have these cool uncut sheets for people to have to earn, but the only way to get them is to turn in 100 or 120,000 prize tickets. And if I didn't do a whole lot of math, but looking at the side events and everything for everything over the weekend, how do you do that legitimately? I don't think that you can as a single person. And then that means you have to either pair up with people or do what they would suggest you not do, is buy and sell or buy and trade prize tickets. And it's I saw people on Sunday morning walking away in the morning at 9 o'clock with the uncut card sheet. And I'm like, how do you have that unless you have 10 people who made day 2 give you their 10,000 tickets? And that's just the 100,000 one. There's a 120,000 one as well. So add 2 more people. I don't know. It just seems incredibly unobtainable unless you have a whole lot of money or I don't know. There needs to be Friday side events, I think, can help alleviate some of that. And you have to have a plan going into it. But ultimately, I didn't. I wasn't there to get as much from the prize wall as I possibly can. I was going to just do with what I had. But ultimately, at the end of it, I was like, what are we doing? Why are these so expensive? So maybe hopefully there's something they can do to make that feel better. I don't know. I just don't feel good. I didn't feel good walking up to the prize wall. I don't feel good looking at the values of everything on the prize wall. And hopefully it feels better in Richmond. Hopefully I just do better in Richmond, and maybe I'll change my mind. But I think a lot of people shared that opinion.
At the end of the day, though, I think overall I'm happy with being there in general. I think it was a good experience, mostly for the memories that I made. Definitely not the playing that I did, but hanging out with Baker for those few short moments, hanging out with my team, seeing Aiden, our 10-year-old here for local, who made it all the way to the top 8, the youngest Golden Mickey winner in the history of the game. I know history, 2 years of the game, but I don't know that record's ever going to be broken. It was incredibly inspiring, and the way the room all came together and rooted for him at the end of the game, or the end of the day, really made me feel like this is what it's all about. It reminded me of what I love about this game the most. And so shout out to him one more time. Him, his brother, who was 6-1 in the Infinity event at the exact same time, getting a buttload of prize tickets himself. Between those two, between playing Renee at round 7 of my main event, watching the younger generation play and excel and enjoy this game is what it's all about for me, and something I'll always champion. So happy to have ended the night that way. When I was going to leave several hours after dropping out of the 3 o'clock, no regrets whatsoever in staying as late as I did to see Aiden succeed in that capacity and remind me of all of that. To wrap this up, I want to give some shout outs. I know I've gone a little bit longer than Andy probably wishes that I did, but that's okay because I am the mayor of Lorcana. Joking aside, but no, I do have a lot of shout outs here that I'm going to go through quickly here, starting first and foremost to our teammate Ron Reckless. Him and his wife, I think they got an extra Mulan over the weekend and were kind enough to gift me one, and they certainly didn't have to. It was very, very kind of them, and I appreciate the love and support that you guys give me here as just a teammate who just tries to do the best I can with what I have here. If I hang on this topic too much, I'm going to cry. So we're going to move on to all the other shout outs. Everybody who walked up and said hello over the weekend, thank you so much. The creators, listeners, everybody in general, you're all pleasant and love seeing you guys. Humble, I finally got to meet him, who was basically him and Linz, Lumiqueer Linz, were somebody I looked up to in the deck building of my one set championship win that I have with Ruby Fossa. They are fantastic. I finally have a signed Mufasa from both of them now since I met Linz in Seattle. Sarah, the Lorcana librarian, was nice enough to introduce me to Humble because I was kind of too chicken to do it myself. Actually, I had an opportunity earlier in the weekend where I walked past him and said, hey, but I'm like, I don't have my card on me and I don't know what I want to say and yada yada. But I kind of geeked out a little bit. He was super, super cool, and he's already cooking Simba decks for the next set, so can't wait to see what he builds with that. Of course, I just mentioned Sarah. She's always a sweetheart, and I enjoyed my time with her over the weekend. Kevin from Lorcana Goons hung out with us as we were watching Aiden excel in the top cut. Was happy to meet both him and Chris, who I played earlier in the weekend. I have, of course, I mentioned Renee. She was pleasant in the final round. Just another reminder of what I love about this game. The team, the whole Rules of Villainy team, St. Louis community in general, who showed up, 30 plus people, I think, that were there in Milwaukee, and 2 of them in the top 32, a bunch more in the day 2 and fighting to get into day 2. I think just an ultimately good showing by St. Louis, the community that we champion here in the Midwest. Emily and Julie rooting us on the entire time, me especially, as I'm just coming back with a loss every time. Aiden, who I just shouted out a little bit ago for being inspiring, being awesome. Can't wait to see how far you excel in this game in the future, and just making the entire trip worth it by being there for those final moments in the
excuse me, the top cut. So exciting and everything that this game represents to me. DKP and TFM Dan, the Forbidden Mountain, you guys were both Class X in playing Aiden. I didn't see his top 32 match, but I watched both of your top 16 and top 8 matches, and you guys were nothing but Class X in your win and loss to Aiden, and can't thank you enough for being that sportsman alike with him, because it's just a great look for the game, and you kept in mind what this is all about, right? So shout out to you guys. There's probably more that I am forgetting, but yeah, everybody I played, everybody I talked to, appreciate you all for everything. And Jackalope spams in my list. He's one of our listeners. He spent the entire weekend with us, and is just one of the family. And I appreciate you finally getting to meet you and spending time with you throughout the weekend. So that's it for me. I don't know the order in which you are seeing all of us here in this Minneapolis. Not Minneapolis either. We are in Milwaukee recap. I will see you guys next time.
What's up, everyone? It's ROB Kirsten, and I'm just here to share my opinion and experience about the DLC Milwaukee event. So I guess I'll just start off with my performance. It wasn't anything spectacular or anything special. I was pretty disappointed in myself, but hey, life goes on, right? Didn't do as well as the last couple of DLCs where I was basically fighting until the end to try and make day 2. I pretty quickly got to a 3-2 record. Unfortunately, I had a couple early losses, but that meant that I was fighting for my life during round 6, and basically it was make or break. You either win and you keep going, or you lose, and there really wasn't anything else to play for, which we'll touch base on in a little bit. But yeah, since that was the case, I went into round 6. I was feeling pretty good, but unfortunately, I just couldn't pull it out. I ended up losing round 6, which meant I was 3-3, and I was pretty hungry at the point, so I decided to go ahead and drop since, like I said, there really wasn't anything else to keep going for. But I got some food, and then I started to just kind of root on our friends who were in it to win it and still trying to make day 2. But yeah, that was my performance. I ended up, obviously getting the Milan, which was kind of the first goal, first milestone we needed to hit, and then just kind of take it game by game after that and see if I could make day 2, which obviously wasn't in my cards that day, which no worries. It was still so much fun, had a great time. I really enjoyed the format. I know in past DLCs it was best of 2, which was kind of hit or miss, and it was pretty hard to achieve a winning record, at least for me, with it only being best of 2. But best of 3 was definitely way more comfortable for me, something I was a lot more used to. So I really enjoyed the format. I enjoyed basically everything about the gameplay. I had really great opponents. They were all super fun, so we'll talk about that in a little bit whenever I give out some shoutouts. But the format was great. The time, 60 minutes for three games, which was very generous in my opinion. So I think overall, I think it was the best format so far for a DLC that at least I've been to. So I'm really looking forward to Richmond and getting a second shot to see if I can make day 2. I really also enjoyed the location. The convention center itself was amazing, very accommodating. There was tons of parking nearby, unlike Atlanta. So pretty easy to just kind of get in, get out. There was no traffic. There was no full parking lots, and the venue itself was gorgeous. Had a lot of amenities, lots of little, snack spots, places to grab a drink. The bathrooms were awesome. The refillable water stations were also a lifesaver because obviously it's a convention center. They're going to charge a lot for, basic things like a bottle of water was $5. So we did end up having to buy one of those, and then we just refilled it. So I really enjoyed the venue itself, and Milwaukee was really great. We had a lot of time. We had a lot of good times going around the city, checking out some great places with our friends. Couple of team outings. We went out to Don's TV repair shop, which was really fun. It's a speakeasy, but it had great food, great drinks, and the atmosphere was awesome. So we did end up finding some pretty great little spots, great breakfast spot, lots of places nearby that was only like 5 minutes from our Airbnb, and our Airbnb was like 10 minutes away from the venue. So very, very reasonable when it comes to options of places to stay, places to eat, and a lot of places were open late. Apparently, Milwaukee is like a college town. Didn't realize that. But yeah, it was pretty great. I would definitely go back there. It was a great place. Really enjoyed the area. So as far as DLC and the pricing goes, that was kind of a little like hit or miss for me. I liked the fact that they had a ton more options on the prize wall. Unfortunately, I think I kind of share the opinion of, most folks out there that the prizes seemed a little unattainable. It was really difficult to get tickets. Like I said earlier, you had no incentive to keep playing the entire day one. Unlike past DLCs where, as long as you reached a certain points in your day one, you could get the maximum amount of tickets. Unfortunately, everybody got the same amount of tickets just for being a main competitor. And if you were fighting for the Mulan, like I was, you would end up round six, and you either win or you lose and you get a Mulan or not. Obviously, people could keep playing for that, but by the time I was done with round six and I was 3-3, that all the side events were done. So I couldn't even really do anything to get extra tickets on day one. I think I played one singular pack rush with our friend Heather. That was really fun. We did have to wait in a line for quite a while, and by the time that we were done with that pack rush, they basically closed everything. There was no more on-demand events. All of the side events had concluded already, so that was kind of disappointing. But we were looking forward to day two and seeing if we could kind of round up some tickets in some side events. But unfortunately, just like just like day one, it was line convention. It was line city. That kind of was a theme throughout the entire DLC, which was a little unfortunate. I know in past DLCs it seemed to run way smoother. I don't remember standing in line for an hour and a half just to get in to get my badge. Even with early pickup on Friday, which another thing, we never got the early pickup promo, which I swear was advertised as a thing. But when people were asked about, hey, do we get the early entry promo, they had no idea what we were talking about. So that was also a little disappointing. But I mean, it is what it is. I really hope they improve things. I know that they're with a new event coordinator, Pastimes, so I think a lot of these decisions are made by them, and hopefully they will listen to the Lorcana community and kind of make things right with the next DLC. Because I know that this isn't even something that occurs at other DLCs. I know that Bologna had better ticketing prizes. I think things were more attainable to get from the prize wall because of that. And I know Bologna had its own issues, so I won't say it's perfect. And I didn't go, obviously, but hopefully that hopefully they can get on the same page. So all of the DLCs are the same because it seems to be a recurring theme that the DLCs are different everywhere. So I don't know if the same thing is going to happen in Richmond, if nothing is going to change. But I really hope that they kind of listen to our feedback and take into account like where we want to keep playing. Like I would have kept playing in day one if there was a reason to, but instead I just ended up hanging out with my friends, which was great, and we had a great time. I had so much fun meeting everybody. But I would have kept playing for more prize tickets. I would have stayed in the rounds. I would have tried to get a better record overall, but there was really no reason to do that. So I would rather take a break and, make sure I'm fresh and ready for day two and some side events, and hopefully could do better there and get some tickets. Um, Overall, we ended up just getting a pin and a Let It Go, non-foil Let It Go promo. So we did get a couple of things from the prize wall, but we also didn't work very hard to get there. We just kind of did one singular Infinity event at 2 p.m. It wasn't even the big one. But I mean, we we were a little busy doing other things, watching Aiden kill it on day two, and supporting him and his family, which was way more important than trying to farm out tickets. But I know Andy did pretty well on day one. He almost made day two, and it was just really cool watching all of our friends do so well. We had plenty of people that made day two. Obviously, Aiden went basically all the way to top eight, which was amazing to see. It was so much fun. just to be there and experience that with him. And obviously, we thank him and his parents for letting us be a part of that experience with them and share that and just be there for that magical moment because it was something very emotional, but we all had so much fun. Um, so aside from that, I had so much fun just meeting a lot of people. There were so many friends and content creators that I hadn't seen in so long, and it was great to be able to meet back up with them and chit chat and just have the magical DLC experience, the Lorcana experience that we love, and being with everybody and seeing people in cosplay. I know Julie, shout out Julie, she was BLT Mickey. That costume was amazing, and I was just so excited for her to like showcase that off to the world because we got to see the process of her making that, and it was just so much fun to just follow along and then see it in real life, and her get the professional pictures done by Tate and be a part of like real Disney Lorcana content, as far as like they put her picture and her video in some official content that they posted. So it was just so much fun doing that and seeing everybody, and my opponents were amazing. I had so much fun with every person I played. I didn't have a single like negative experience in that realm. I also got to like play Earlmeister, which was super cool. Obviously, he's another content creator, and I've been watching his videos for a while, and we know. He builds really cool decks, and it was just like, oh my gosh, what is he playing? What is gonna happen? But it was so much fun. He was super super sweet. It was joy playing him. Um, and Beefcake also was another like pro-ish player or content creator. I don't really remember, but he gave me a signed weight card, which is really cool. And he had the spiciest deck that I was just like laughing hysterically about losing so bad too. Like he kicked my butt, but like the deck was just so like it was just so impressive to like see how it worked and like just be stunned by this crazy spicy deck that I was like, oh my gosh, you have like 25 cards in your hand. Like this is wild. Like what am I gonna do? But yeah, it was just a pleasure meeting everybody and seeing all of our friends and hanging out and having that experience with them. Um, but yeah, I couldn't give enough shout outs. Like I could talk for like 10 minutes about just the people that I interacted with. Like I know like Lorcana Fran, I hadn't seen her since DLC Seattle. But we talk online and on Instagram and stuff and follow each other, and it was just great seeing her in person again. Same with like Enchanted Kim, and got to meet so many new people too, like Lorcana Chats and Jeff from Inkwell. I can't remember. Brad will correct me later. But yeah, it was just so much fun. Additional ink, that's what it was. Oh my gosh, thank goodness I remembered. But yeah, we had a great time. I cannot wait for DLC Richmond. I really hope that we can get some tickets, and I genuinely hope that people also have a great time and that hopefully things improve a little bit because you know I would love to have one of those beautiful playmats or just be able to get some of the other cards like Simba or the Elsa. I know that that was just kind of like really far out of reach ticket wise, and I know that the like uncut sheets are just crazy, like 100,000 tickets. I have no idea how people do that, especially if you do kind of do well, because like Aiden, he did so well. He got top eight. He got all of those amazing prizes, and it ended up his brother Blake had more tickets than him, even though he didn't do as well in the actual main event. He did amazing in the giant infinity event on day two, and that event paid out better than Aiden making top eight, which is just kind of wild because Aiden didn't finish playing until like 8, 9 o'clock at night on day two. So he had zero opportunities to like do any single side event, like no on demand, no anything. Like, and by the time he was done, he was like cooked. He was like, I just want to sit down and do nothing, which I could not blame him more. But yeah, I just wish that the ticketing was a little bit better. I really hope the venue is just as great and amazing as Milwaukee. That was one thing that I thought was done super super well. But yeah, I just really look forward to seeing everybody else again and meeting more new people and having more great Lorcana experiences.
Hey there, Lumineers, it's Phil and Vince, and here are my thoughts on the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, I really do think we've taken a step backwards in the quality and fun of the DLCs from Season 1. And it's not just Milwaukee in itself. I think we kind of saw this lead up start at the tail end of Season 1. We left with a great Seattle DLC in North America. The NA Continentals were fantastic. And then we had Worlds, which I think a lot of us expected were going to be public. And unfortunately, they were only limited to the attendees that qualified and their guests. And unfortunately, I think this is a huge missed opportunity for Ravensburger and the Disney Lorcana game itself. What could have been a fantastic celebration of the game ended up being a lot smaller. Now, they did encourage watch parties, which we did here in the St. Louis area, and those were a lot of fun. But certainly, I think a lot of us would have attended Worlds had it been a public event. And I do think that was a missed opportunity, and I certainly hope that Ravensburger learns from that. And the reason why I bring that up is because it was at Worlds when we kind of learned the scope of the DLCs for Season 2. And that was the other disappointment I think a lot of folks saw is that we have less DLCs in North America for Season 2 in comparison to Season 1, and this is also true in Europe. Now, while I'm super happy that Illumineers across the globe will finally, for the first time, get the opportunity to attend DLCs, it's still kind of a bummer that there are less DLCs in Season 2 than there were in Season 1 in North America. I know that we've got the CCQs, and I think Ravensburger has taken that step at adding those CCQs, or at least bringing them forward. It seems like that was something that was going to happen as a result in Season 3 that they brought forward into Season 2, and those have been fantastic. But I'm not sure that the CCQs quite equal the fun that we all had at DLCs last year. And again, I know some of this is going to seem harsh criticism, but these are just my honest opinions. And ultimately, I have a lot of faith that Ravensburger, like we saw last year, will improve on these DLCs. And so I want to provide my honest feedback so that I hope they do get a little bit better. Or in a lot of cases, I think a lot better. So let's turn to DLC Milwaukee specifically. I really do think this event from the get-go was pretty disorganized. And I think a lot of this stems from the fact that Pastimes just did not have enough staff for the amount of people that attended this event. And it even started before the event. I got one email from Pastimes, and it was just a reminder with a link to register my deck in RPH for the main event. And it's possible that there was other emails that went somewhere else, but no email about like where registration was or any of those things. And again, it is totally possible that I could have missed those. But I think, some of that was included on the website, and it'd been nice having follow up more communication on the email front. With that being said too, the registration line was just way too long. And honestly, the lines for everything were kind of long. But in particular, the registration line, I think, took about an hour and 45 minutes to get through. And it just was not a great experience. And frankly, I think it was a missed opportunity here to not have a registration promo. Now, I think this is something that came out of DLC Atlanta, giving that registration promo to encourage people to do registration the day before the event. But it is something that carried throughout all of the DLCs in Season 1 and even carried over into Bologna. I distinctly remember, I feel like in one of the lorecasts that we were supposed to get the Anna promo for pre-registering. But again, I've been told that that wasn't quite the case. It was just what we all assumed, or I assumed. And so there was no registration promo. And I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity because I don't believe that's something that really cost Ravensburger in particular a lot of money just to give folks something to walk away with. And I certainly think that would have helped smooth things over a little bit for a line that was really long. But I also just think really what needs to happen for this going forward is there just needs to be more folks doing registration, and it should be done earlier. And also, they shouldn't give this option between tickets or packs. Now, my understanding on how that occurred is that originally it was only supposed to be packs, but because of the prize wall, which I'm gonna talk extensively about here, is that they added tickets. So you could get the option of tickets or packs. And I think the addition of tickets was a fantastic idea. Really support that. But I do think they should have just eliminated the packs completely so that there wasn't any of these, like, do you want tickets or packs, which can, when you're registering a whole bunch of folks, slow down the line. And I think bulk of the folks wanted tickets anyway. And if you really wanted packs, you could go take those tickets for the equivalent value and get 3 packs of Fabled. But, it wasn't all bad there. I thought the location was great. I think the Baird Center was a fantastic location. I think probably maybe there could be some layout things done a little bit differently. But overall, I thought the location was great. I kind of lucked out that my hotel was right across the street. And honestly, I know there was a lot of criticism beforehand about, no lunch break being done. But honestly, that didn't seem to be an issue, at least for me or anybody that I attended with. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that there was pretty decent food options on premises. More options and better options than any other DLC I have been to. I know the food in Chicago was not great and expensive. In DLC Seattle, I had to run to Starbucks to go get, coffee and like a quick sandwich. I think I got a grilled cheese sandwich and running back to make sure I made it to my line, my next round. So, having those food options right there, and there really wasn't a ton of wait to get food at any given time because there were at least, I think, 3, maybe 4 options to get food. Thought that was fantastic and something that I would encourage them to do for him. The other thing that I actually thought really went well was the Ravensburger Play Hub. I had pretty low expectations about the RPH going into this event, just because of an experience of having run events myself and having been at a few events where it just didn't go quite to plan. But ultimately, I thought it went pretty well. Yeah, it had some hiccups, but I think a lot of these tournament softwares have hiccups when you're talking about a large single event. And I think it went really, really well. And I have a lot of faith that that application is only going to get better as time goes on. And I do think even during the event, it did seem like it sputtered as it went on in the event, but then it got better again. So I'm really happy with how the Ravensburger Play Hub actually performed at this event. Certainly way better than my expectations. I think really probably the bigger issue though was that players should be held accountable to report their matchups. Now, whether that's a penalty or game loss, I'm not really sure where I land on it this time, but I do think that there was a lot of time between matches, which is something I'll talk a little bit about later, but really players need to be reporting their matchups as quickly as possible so that the next round can be paired and the day can move along a little bit faster. So going back though to the Friday events, is that we knew this going into this DLC Milwaukee, but I think it was a huge missed opportunity. I certainly felt it that there were no side events on Friday. So it really felt like there wasn't a lot to do. We had some vendors, which I thought were okay, but it did feel like there were fewer in DLC Milwaukee than there were in DLC Seattle. At least there seemed to be fewer smaller vendors in Milwaukee than in Seattle. So I would certainly encourage the event organizers to try to get smaller vendors into these DLCs and not just these large national vendors. Certainly supporting the local game community is always a good thing. I thought the artists and Pack Rush were great. But again, there just wasn't a ton to do on Friday. It's like you waited an hour and 40 minutes to get your badge. And then I hung out with some friends and the lines are actually pretty long for the artists. So I didn't get anything done on Friday, or maybe I got one artist done on Friday, signatures on Friday. And then we all went to dinner. And I think honestly where I really stand on this artist is I'm kind of conflicted. I really do like the idea that you could just walk up. So if you had time, you could go get up, go get a signature done from an artist. And I think that worked pretty well. But I do kind of like the idea that DLC Seattle had, where it was a time system for all of those events. And they had a organizer there to kind of manage that. And maybe you could kind of combine that with both a time slot that you could reserve, or go up and get maybe down on a walk-up list so that the lines could be managed a little bit. I certainly felt that was true for Christian Romeo. I was in that line like 3 times during the event, and I ended up having to leave because the line wasn't moving fast enough, and so I had to go do my event and then come back. And actually, by the time I finally did get signatures from Christian Romeo, because he had such a long line, they reduced the 4 items plus poster he could sign to 2 items plus the poster. And I think that was something that probably could do a little bit better. I didn't get an opportunity to do pack rush like I did in Chicago and in Seattle, so I was a little bummed that I didn't get that opportunity. And so I think maybe a little like one dedicated pastimes employee to kind of organize that area would have made a huge real improvement. As for the main event the next day, I honestly think the Ravensburger made the right choice, that going to best of 3 is the right option. I know there's probably a lot of debate on, going first or going second and winning die rolls. Ultimately, I don't know that it matters all that much. It certainly is a preference to go first, but I don't think it's the end all be all if you don't win the die roll and you end up on the draw. But what I will say, this goes back to my larger point, is I really do think we need to start the rounds earlier. So 10 o'clock was probably too late, and it really should have been punctual. It's 10 o'clock, and that's the team meeting. Really needs to start at 10, and we need to start going, but it really probably should have started at 9, especially with a lot of the long delays of getting folks to report matches, and maybe there were some RPH issues that had to go on to fix that. But there was a lot of downtime, and as it got closer and later in the evening, the rounds were moving a lot faster, and I think we could have seen something between a happy medium, but between some time between matches, but not maybe a half hour between matches, which there were definitely several rounds where that occurred. Again, I'm going to talk more extensively about the tickets at the end here, but I really do think the option of what to play for felt really bad. So you get the Pegasus at round 1, which, if I remember correctly, in last season, you got the Dragonfire after round 3. So you had to play 3 rounds in order to get it. Now, you didn't have to win those. You just had to be in the event for the first 3 rounds. And I think that certainly helps people stay in the event a lot longer. And so, but we got that Pegasus at round 1. And then the second thing is that you have this thing the next thing to play for was if you won 3 games in day 1, you got the Mulan. And I'm really conflicted about this in particular because, man, it certainly felt bad. That felt like a hard thing to achieve. It certainly felt, and part of this I just think is the difference between the 3-game format and the 2-game format. In the 2-game format, if you go 1-1, you still get points out of that. So if you go 2-0, you get 7 points. If you go 1-1, you both get 3 points, and you only get 0 points if you don't win a match. But if you go 2-1 in a best of 3 format, if you go 1-2, in a best of 3 format, you get no points. And so as a result of that, that 1-game win, it doesn't matter whether you went 2-0 or 2-1 or whatever, or you went 0-2 or 1-2. The results are the same as far as points in the system go. And so as a result, it felt harder to achieve this Mulan, especially for, I think, a more casual players who's just trying to get into competitive play. I certainly didn't have the best experience of play, but that was on me. I didn't practice as much as I probably should have, but still certainly a struggle. And I saw a lot of people that were so close to getting a Mulan, just like one win away and in tears because they couldn't get there. And that doesn't feel good, especially when you turn around and you could get the Mulan as an entry for at least the Infinity event. I think there were a few events on day 2 that you could just pay and you would get the promo. And so I don't know that I really like that. I really feel like, and also too, the other thing is you, in order to make day 2, you needed to go 6-2. And if you only, if you got your first hurdle was at 3 rounds, you got your Mulan. And then if you went, 5-3, there's nothing for you. You don't go to day 2. You don't get anything extra. So if you played 8 rounds, because say you were maybe, 5-2 going into round 8. So there was definitely a possibility you could make it into day 2, but you then lose that round. You get the exact same pricing that I got, and I only played 7 rounds, and I went 3-4 because once I got the Mulan promo, there's no reason to play that 8th round. I just stopped. And you kind of saw this in the event that basically every round after that happened, there were less and less people playing in the main event. And I really do think it's important to encourage folks to consistently stay in the main event as long as possible. And so encouraging folks to have optionality to do that, whether that's, the ROV patented ticketing system, which more than happy to offer to Ravensburger here, but is just the ability that I think no matter what, on day 1, whether you win, lose, you should get tickets for something. And I think, one way to do this, the Mulan, the Pegasus promo is one thing. Again, maybe think about moving that further into the event to encourage people to stay in the event. But I think, instead of having the Mulan as the option, just put that on the prize wall or have that as a second day event prize. And then you give tickets based on, win-loss records. And I think you should give tickets for folks that, go 1-2 as well. I think people should feel like they're rewarded for playing in the game and for winning a game, even if it doesn't reward you points to make it to day 2. And, if you want to put that Mulan on the prize wall, people could go get it. And I think that's great. I definitely think there's a lot that can be done to make the main event and encourage folks to stay in that. Because I heard a lot, and anecdotally, I kind of feel this way too, that there seems to be like maybe more value to just go as an attendee and not go as a competitive player, especially when the prize wall tickets are just so high, which again, we'll talk about here in a second. The last thing I'll say about the main event here is the clocks. There should be clocks everywhere. Like, I don't know why there weren't, but there should be. That was probably the big thing. Andy and I actually gotten kind of a back and forth about it. And it turns out actually really the only way to see the clock was to open the app or put a timer on your table, on your phone, because there were no clocks to be found, and really at all during the event. I think they showed up a little bit later, but they were really far away and hard to see for most people. And they were like on these TV screens. I'm definitely kind of used to the big, like, LED time clocks that were everywhere. So if you in DLC Seattle, it didn't matter where you sat, you could almost always see a clock. Again, on the logistics here, I'll just quickly add that I think another downgrade that from DLC Seattle to DLC Milwaukee was the viewing area. It was definitely a cool setup, and I think it was a cool idea for you to see the players at that table, and it was roped off. But ultimately, I really think it's better for the players and everybody else for those folks just to be somewhere else. Much like they were in Seattle, they were kind of behind the viewing wall, and you could kind of watch it on screen. Partly because, it just adds more stress to them as players. And I don't know, like, I'm not at that table, probably not going to be at the table for a very long time, maybe if ever. But it certainly feels like there's a lot of extra pressure when folks are just standing there watching you. And also there's not a lot of information you get as a viewer because you really need to see the top-down view. So, it's not like you can really see everything. And they didn't, they had a really nice stage in Seattle. So I definitely think the viewing area certainly could have been improved. And again, I think this just goes back to the whole like timing thing a little bit. Is the day Sunday, the day 2 was, I don't think they got done with the event. I had to leave early, but I don't think they got done to the event, from what I understand from Frank Kirsten, until like close to midnight. And basically they had to rush through the ceremony. And again, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that they really need to be tighter with their timelines and then probably start earlier. Best of 3 is a longer format than best of 2. And with the way they've split up the matches, which I think is a good way to do it. I don't really have any critiques with that. I think it seemed like it worked really, really well. I wasn't in day 2, but it does seem like it went pretty well. It's just timing. I think ending the event at midnight is not the best way to end that, especially when feel like you're almost kind of getting kicked out of the venue. So let's talk a little bit about the side events. I think one of the things I have to say about the side events is ticket consistency, and this goes with that prize wall economy here, and really just kind of the inability to do many of the events because of the line. And again, I think some of this has to do with staffing. Like, I think they just need more staff. Having 2 or 3 people run the side events probably wasn't enough. They needed more. And informing staff where things are. So like, you had folks, you had one line, and things change throughout the day. It's like a line that used to be to go pick up your Mulan was now the line to get your to register for side events, or then became the line to go to the prize wall, or the line that was to get tickets, pick up your tickets from the side event that you did. So I did the Infinity format. I asked one of the employees, and he's like, you go in this line. And that line turned out to be, I guess it turned into at some point the side event line. And the line I was supposed to be at was all the way on the other side of the building, and the event hall. So I had to go over there and stand in yet another line just to get the tickets. So that was kind of frustrating, having to wait like an hour in one line only to be told to go to another line where I needed to pick up my tickets, and then go to yet another line to, get things off of the prize wall. So again, I think a lot of that could be helped by signage, by, more staff members, and a lot of that should just be pre-planned at the get-go. So where folks know, it's like, I think having, a place where registration is, and if registration then turns into where you go to pick up tickets, I think that's probably the way to do it. Or, you move registration and then outside, and then registration becomes where you pick up tickets later. I don't know. But there are, I think, ways to do it that you could announce that in the player meeting and just continually announce that throughout the day. And honestly, like, they had TV screens everywhere. Those are the ones that they eventually kind of did use to put clocks on and stuff. Is like, just update, it's like where folks can go to pick up things. So people have like a resource or an info booth, where they could go. And again, that was one thing we saw last year, is the lore books. That was something we didn't have this year. And I don't know if that's just a money thing or what, but I think they're like inexpensive things that would feel nice as you're doing check-in or going to an info booth to pick up, that feel like nice little touches for going to an event like a DLC. And that's, I think, what makes the difference between going to, say, a Disney Lorcana challenge event than going to a CCQ run by a third party. So let's talk about the prize wall, because this is where I think there is a lot of frustration, and particularly a lot of frustration on my end. So if we look back to last season, it was about 35 tickets-ish, I think, to get both a Rapunzel and a Cindy. I could be wrong exactly about the numbers. It was about 100 tickets for playmat. I know that did adjust during the season. But 35 tickets was certainly reasonable based on, you had the ticket thresholds of points in the main event, and then you had tickets you could figure out on the side events. And while 100 tickets was certainly a lot of tickets to achieve, it was certainly super feasible remember in Seattle helping Andy and Kirsten with like a handful of extra tickets I had, and jumping in doing a few side events so that they could get the 100 tickets to get the playmat. In DLC Milwaukee, I really don't love this kind of arcade style prize wall. So I will just say one positive thing I think I have is there are a lot of options. That may not be a positive for some folks. There's certainly a lot of options. With that being said, I do think the ticket prices on a lot of these things don't make a lot of sense. And you look at it, you're looking at 1,500 tickets for either the Dragonfire, non-foil Dragonfire, non-foil Pegasus. You're looking at 2,000 tickets for the Elsa pin, which is what I got. My goal going into this DLC was pretty low. I was like, let me get the Mulan and let me get enough tickets to get the Elsa pin. I accomplished both of those because I didn't want to, and it was impossible to really, for me as an individual, to farm a lot of these tickets, to go through the line enough to get tickets for, say, like Pack Rush or stuff, because I, mostly from a time perspective, because I was in the main event, and which the max tickets you could get in the main event on day one, if you didn't make it to day two, was 1,200 tickets. That was it. You got that at registration. No more options to get tickets unless you made day two. And even then, you got 10,000 tickets, which is enough to buy, the non-foil Mulan and the non-foil Let It Go, or one of either the Simba or the Elsa. You couldn't get both of those because that'd be 14,000 tickets. You couldn't get a playmat because that's 18,000 tickets. So, so if you, and then if you made day two, basically, like you basically were, trying hard to make it into top 64, but the longer you went in those first few rounds, if you didn't decide, hey, I'm going to drop and go to another event to try to get tickets, you were kind of SOL because it would be hard to get into those side events. And so day two, I was in the Infinity Core Constructed, and certainly a lot of opportunity to get tickets. But again, those rounds took forever to kind of move to the next one. And so at a certain point I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop Infinity because I want to try to, get more tickets so I can get the enough tickets that I need to get the pin. And then gave whatever extra tickets I had to whomever needed the tickets. So I definitely think the ticket system needs some work. I don't love the 1,500 tickets. I think, we can cut off a zero there, so it doesn't feel like obnoxiously high. Like, again, you're looking at a arcade prize wall. And also, I think there probably should be a little bit more consistency here. So like the non-foil Mulan should probably be the same, value as the Let It Go. Maybe bring down some of these ticket prices, or alternatively offer more tickets to the event itself so that these are a little bit easily attainable. Again, these prizes don't cost Ravensburger much money at all. And again, people are spending money to go to these events, and having some value to take home and go home with is good. And I there's a balance there, because some of these, they shouldn't be super easy to get, but they shouldn't feel like they're impossible to get. It's like I was just seeing some people that were like in tears because they couldn't either get the promo Mulan from day one, or they just were like 100 tickets shy of getting, a non-foil Elsa or a non-foil Simba, or maybe they were like 1,000 tickets away from the playmat, and it's just impossible to get into another event to get it. So they're hoping that they can get tickets from other things. And this is what I have to say that I love about the Lorcana community is so many people were so gracious to give their tickets to other people, and I thought that was honestly fantastic and phenomenal, and I really super appreciate all of those folks doing that. And so that's kind of where I land on the prize wall. Is there really needs to be some adjustment there. But overall, I will say, I know this is fairly critical. I had a lot of fun. I do plan on going to the DLC in Richmond if I can get a ticket, and go to DLC Indianapolis and Continentals and hopefully Worlds, even if it's just an attendee. All of those events I hope I get the opportunity to go to. But before I go, I want to give out a few shout outs to some folks that I met there while I was at the DLC Milwaukee. So I got to give a huge shout out to Rex, a fellow F1 fan who loves my sidetracks on F1 fandom. I had a conversation with him after he played the mayor in one round, and the mayor was not amused at our conversation, but it was a lot of fun talking to Rex. I got to give a shout out to Papa Lloyd. His name is Don. He challenged me to a pack rush, but unfortunately we just didn't have time to get through the line to do the pack rush. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. Luna, my round 1 opponent in the main event. Great guy. And then Ryan, I think my round 1 opponent in the Infinity Spectacular, also great. And it was also great just seeing a whole bunch of friends of the pod and friends that we've met in the content creator community, whether it's Enchanted Kim, Katie, who did a great job of as a caster for the DLC herself. So it was great to see her. She does the Lore Keepers Inn. Liam, it was gracious. I was talking with him while he was talking with Aiden and Aiden's family, and they do the Illumineers. So it was really great, and I had a lot of fun. And those are my opinions in this long video of talking about DLC Milwaukee. And as always, take care, Illumineers.